And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Real America. I'm your host, John Sottilare. With us on the line is the one and only, the man, the myth, the living legend, John Thompson.
I don't know if I'm all that, but I am a bag of chips.
And also on the line with us is Texas, from Texas. That's perfect. Hey. I think it's a perfect description of what we're trying to do here. Trying to be accurate. Anyway, we're going to start our segment. It's titled, what do we title this again? Yeah, here we go. This is good. Yeah. The Roots of Freedom. And what we find is a lot of people today talk about, and over the last couple of years, talk about how we're losing our rights. We're losing our freedoms. Government's expanding. They're usurping the authority of the state. They're more regulating our lives, and we're losing our rights. But the average guy sitting at Dunkin' Donuts sipping a cup of coffee, he's saying, okay, how? Prove it to me. Show me where I'm losing my rights. I can get up in the morning. I can put on my TV. I can watch any one of 6,000 different news channels. I can listen to satellite radio. I can get Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts. I can have a donut filled with whatever it is I want. I can play golf. I can go to the movies. I can go see a Broadway show. I can walk on the beach at night. What rights have I lost as a citizen that I should be concerned about? I don't see it. That's the average thought, or the thought of the average person out on the street. Where, show me where I've lost, my rights. Like show me the money, show me where I've lost my rights. So that's kind of what we're going to do. In order to understand what you have lost, you must first understand that you have it. And, case in point, Christmas Eve, Dad putting that bicycle together for Junior, right? He's out there, puts that thing together. Well, he can't put it under the tree, so he leaves it on the front porch. Christmas morning, everyone gets up. Dad goes out, the bike's gone. Dad knows the bike's gone. He knows he put it together. He knows he put it there. It's gone. What about Junior? Junior doesn't know that he just lost a brand new bike. Why? Because Junior never knew he had a brand new bike. Same thing here. If you don't know you have the rights, you're never gonna know that they're gone. You'll never know that they're stolen. You'll never miss them when they're gone. So hopefully tonight we can answer some of those questions. What rights have I lost? And we can talk about some of that. What we're going to do here is I got a clip that I want to play. It's from Judge Andrew Napolitano. It's on natural rights. And I want to play this clip just to give us some kind of a background and intro on this. It's about a 4-minute clip, and we'll probably play the whole thing because it's really a good clip. He really lays things out and discusses things well. So let's see if we can go and do that and get this on here.
Some men say the earth is round and some men say it is flat. But if it is round, can a command of the parliament make it flat? And if it is flat, could the king order it to be round? These are the words used by St. Thomas More in defense of himself, representing himself in his own trial for high treason, in which he was accused, of course, of refusing to acknowledge that the king was the head of the church on earth. We all know the outcome. The government separated his head from the rest of his body. But when he was making this argument to the jury, he was, of course, appealing not only to their common sense. Of course, the parliament couldn't make a round earth flat. And of course, the king couldn't make a flat earth round. He was also appealing to their understanding of the natural law, of the order in things, of the way a divine creature or a force of nature, whether you are religious or secular, created things, and of our need to pursue happiness by complying with the law of nature. He knew what Aristotle and Augustine and Aquinas had written. He could almost anticipate what Locke and Jefferson would write. And Locke, of course, would repeat this, and Jefferson would repeat this as well, that we have natural rights, that they come from our humanity, that they don't come from the government. At least those were the arguments that were made by these wonderful people who advanced this argument of the natural law. When we were a colony, when we were colonies, and the king and the parliament had wanted to raise money, they had ingenious ways of doing so. One of the most offensive was the Stamp Act. Parliament enacted a law that required every piece of paper in your home, every book, every pamphlet, every legal document, even a poster you were going to nail to a tree, have the king's image on it. You think it's rough going to the post office today? You had to go to a foreign post office and buy an image of the king. Question: how did the king and the parliament 3,000 miles away know if you had in your home the king's image on every piece of paper? Answer: Parliament enacted an abomination called the Townsend Acts, which authorized British soldiers to write their own search warrants. So a British soldier would show up at your house and knock on the door and hand you a piece of paper in which he had authorized himself to come in, ostensibly to look for the stamps. But of course, while there, they might help themselves to food, to alcohol, to furniture. They might even help themselves to the house, which is why we have the Third Amendment, which prohibits quartering troops in a private home against the wishes of the owner. The Stamp Act was really the last straw. It was the only one of the oppressive acts that Parliament actually repealed in an effort to quell the colonists from their rebellious ways. We fought a revolution. We won the revolution. We wrote a constitution. In 1787, they had a great debate, and the debate went back to what Moore said at his trial and what Locke had written and what Aristotle, Augustine, and Aquinas had written. Where do our liberties come from? Do they come from our humanity, or do they come from the government? Hamilton and the big government people at Philadelphia in 1787 said there can be no freedom without government. Government protects freedom, and government knows when to restrict it and when to expand it. And as long as the government is subject to the will of the people, as long as the majority rules, freedom will be safe. Jefferson, who wasn't there but argued through Madison, and Madison directly argued that this was nonsense, that our freedom comes from our humanity, that our right to think as we wish, to say what we think, to publish what we say, to worship or not to worship, our right to defend ourselves, our right to keep and bear arms, our right to life, to liberty, to the pursuit of happiness, our right to be left alone. After the right to life, that's my favorite, the right to be left alone, that these rights come from our humanity.
Well, that's exactly it. Our rights come from our humanity. So Judge Napolitano here, he takes us through this, this whole thing, where the question really is, where do our rights come from? Do they come from a government, or do they come from just the fact that we live and breathe? Is it something that is inert in us? Is it something we're born with, we're created with? Or is this something that a government, a king, gives to us and allows us to utilize? As you heard, we go into the convention in 1787. You have one side, which is Madison and Jefferson, saying, no, it's inert to us. We're born with this. It's ours. And just the fact that we exist, freedom is ours. The liberties are ours. All of this is ours to begin with. And the other side saying, well, you can't have it without government, therefore government's needed to regulate it, government should give it, government should take it away as government sees fit. That was the prevailing philosophy going back for the millennia before that. So you can go back to a time when all of the things that you were allowed to do, you could do, not because you were a person, but because the king said you could do it. And maybe on Tuesday and Thursday you can do it, but Monday, Wednesday, and Friday the answer was no, you couldn't do it. So this is all part of that. Let's see, we got John Thompson on the line.
Yes, I'm still here. I was just thinking, when you were saying it's always a debate. You know, does the government give us rights, or do the rights come from us as people? And the other side of the debate is often heard as, well, if we didn't have government, you wouldn't have those rights. And it's true to a point, because the government exists to secure our rights, to help us secure our rights. And we as people understand that human beings are social creatures. We have a need to be with each other. You know, some of us may be loners out there, but by and large, humanity needs humanity to exist and to prosper. So the quote that I like is from Ayn Rand in 1944. She said, "Civilization is the process of setting man free from men." And this is what we're talking about, I think, in large degree, is that we, as individuals, have all of these rights. They are intrinsic to the human being. But in order to exercise these rights, we have to do so because nobody lives out in the wilderness. So we have to exercise our rights with other human beings who have the same rights, and we have to strike a balance, and we have to, be as most free as we can possibly be. And that's the trick. That's what civilization is. As we've gone through the centuries, we are more free every step of the way. Yes, there are times where we step back a little bit, or where we slide a little bit, things like the Dark Ages, as they were called. But as it goes, as time marches on, humanity is more free. And because we are more free, we are also more prosperous and more wealthy. Freedom drives everything. Freedom is why we have the wealth and we have the happiness we have. It's not something that hinders health and wealth and health and happiness. It's something that drives it and causes it to be. Without freedom, we wouldn't have anything.
Well, the American founders said that all men are created equal and endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, and that among these are that life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And most of us have heard that. We're familiar with it. Most people have no idea what that means. They can't associate with anything. But it's true. But they called it self-evident truth, something that doesn't need to be explained. Like the Napolitano in the video was saying, can the king make the world, a round world flat? Can you do these things? Well, obvious it's no. You can't. It's a self-evident truth. The sun rises on one side and sets on the other. The sky is blue. The water goes, tide back and forth. There are certain things you don't even have to think about because they're going to be the same. You can't change it. You can't have an effect on it. You just leave it alone. It's that self-evident truth. 2 and 2 equals 4. You don't have to think about that. It's just natural. 87 years after they did the whole Constitution thing, right? Abraham Lincoln reaffirmed it, this whole idea, this whole notion, on the Civil War battlefield at Gettysburg in his address. In 1963, you have the same sentiments being echoed at the Lincoln Memorial by Martin Luther King Jr., urging America to fulfill the promise of its founding. And I think that's where we really go to find out the starting point for our search for the roots of freedom is really in the Declaration of Independence, and what it is that the foundation of this nation is predicated upon.
And John, is it unalienable? Is it unalienable?
It's unalienable. It cannot be taken away from you. It's intrinsic to you. You can't be separated from it. So I can't give away my rights. You can't take them away from me. They're mine. I can choose not to exercise them, but they're still mine. I can choose to allow you to trample on them, but they're still mine. I can allow you to come onto my property, set up a tent, and live there the rest of your life, but the property's still mine, even though you're the one utilizing it. So that's that's a good analogy, the way to look at it anyway. So the question comes up is why would someone believe these things? How did our founding fathers, guys like Thomas Jefferson and James Madison and John Adams, how did these men come to this conclusion